So
I'll
moved.
move to approve the minutes. David Porter, Marlboro.
Thank you,
I'll,
Dave.
I'll second.
All righty. Any adjustments? All right. Seeing and not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any abstentions?
Megan Massa, Tolland, I abstain.
Thanks, Megan. All righty. We'll jump right into reports from staff and myself. Only item that I have that I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of is that this legislative session, there was Public Act 26-144 was approved and signed by the governor. And this is an act that is entitled Concerning Statewide Fire Protection. And so there's a lot of different elements in there, but it does require municipalities to establish so-called local fire protection plans beginning July 1, 2027. So it doesn't have a lot of detail in it, but it sounds familiar to me and similar to the state law that requires us to have EMS plans in place. And so it talks about some resources and if you have agreements with districts, if you're not a town, fire protection. So just wanted to put that on out there on the radar screen. Matt and I and Cheryl have had a conversation about a week ago, and so we're trying to gather some more information. And so that'd be a future agenda item topic to see if we can see how we can provide if CROG can play a role in providing some guidance and templates and be a resource. So stay tuned for that, but you may want to take a look at that. There's as always, there's a OLR bill analysis that's out there, which does a pretty good job of, at least in my estimation, at least boiling it down to the salient points. So with that, Matt, you want to jump in?
I'd be happy to. So good afternoon, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling in from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm at the annual conference, the 60th annual conference of the National Association of Regional Councils, or NARC. Gotta love our acronyms in government, right? But NARC is roughly the NLC equivalent for councils of governments, planning commissions, etc. But it's an informative conference thus far. I wanted to touch on three things. And on the last one, I'm going to cede my time to Kim Bishop. But first of all, I want to thank everybody who was able to attend our annual meeting last week on June 3rd. You know, we had really good attendance, held the meeting at the Alumni Center at UConn's main campus in Mansfield, as Mayor Tony Moran really emphasized to us. Storrs is a part of Mansfield. But thought we really had a great event. Joe D'Ambrosia, Joe D, longtime voice of the UConn Huskies, served as our keynote speaker. We gave out some awards, which I was really excited about. We brought back our awards program after a hiatus of several years. I want to thank all the staff that were involved with that. Kim Bishop took the lead in helping to develop the awards program. So thank you to everyone who was able to come out. And we're looking for a location for next year's annual meeting. I think we'll go back west of the river. If anyone has any venues in mind, if you'd love to bring CROG's annual meeting to your community, we're always open for new ideas. We need a venue that can support 100, 120 people or so. But again, thanks to everyone who was able to attend. Looking forward to Thursday's meeting of the Connecticut Town and City Management Association, CTCMA. I will be conducting or moderating a session first thing in the morning with Mary Calorio and Jordan Lumpkins from the Northeast Council of Governments. And many of you may know that Mary and Jordan, they are working on what I think is a pretty neat initiative. They're working as regional town administrators. And each of them are supporting 3 communities in Northeastern Connecticut. So we're going to hear about that program, how they think it's working. And we're also going to try to speculate and talk a little bit about the future of regional service delivery in our state. So looking forward to having an open and an interactive conversation with the CTCMA membership on Thursday. So lastly, Peter, I'd like to turn things over to Kim Bishop, who can talk about some of our two very important economic development initiatives we have underway, where we're looking to identify some additional local economic and community development initiatives, programs, and services that we can provide to our member communities. Kim?
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to put out another reminder. Many of you might have received an email a few weeks ago about a luncheon that we're hoping to host. So a couple of months ago, we put out a survey around potential shared services around economic development needs, what your needs are, and kind of, where CROG might be able to kind of fill those gaps, or where we can support you guys in maybe working together with a staff person or whatever that might look like. We had some really great survey results, but we want to have an in-depth conversation and really learn a little bit more about what your economic development challenges and needs are. And then we can kind of talk as a group about maybe some solutions that might be out there. So we're hosting 2 of them. You or someone on your team has probably received an invitation for either next Tuesday, June 16th, or next Wednesday, June 17th. Lunch on us at our offices. We do validate parking in the garage, so we're trying to make it as easy as we can. If you were invited to the 16th and you can't make it, but you can make the 17th, that's also okay, and vice versa. So I'm going to be sending out a reminder note shortly that for anyone who needs to switch days or has one that's preferred over the other, that they can do so. I just want to make sure that we have the count right for lunch. So I do encourage you to attend if you can, or to send someone in your place, or to come along with you. We really want voices in the room. We're definitely putting a lot of time and effort into understanding broadly and then more focused what the economic development challenges are for our communities, so that we can best find supportive solutions. Similarly to that, we hosted our first economic development roundtable, where we're kind of pooling communities together purely based off of geography and not being able to do 38 of these. We broke it down into kind of like 9 cohorts. And we're looking to do a few more of those this summer. So if you have availability, if you're interested in sort of being our host town, if you'd like to learn a bit more about what we're hoping to do with that, feel free to reach out to me. We are working on some dates now to try and get a few going in what we're hoping to be slightly slower summer months, but are not shaping up to be such. But that's another effort of ours to kind of understand economic development needs kind of across departments, bring in partners of ours and Capital Workforce Partners in Metro Hartford Alliance, so that they can hear firsthand from our municipalities what their challenges are around business retention and expansion, workforce development, so we can start taking a holistic approach to how we support our communities. And that's all from me. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Kim. So that's my report with Kim's assistance, Peter. If you want to move on to Pauline next.
Absolutely. Pauline.
So the only thing I have is that the ACO RPIP grant has finally been executed. So that's with Willington and my brain is dead. Willington, Tolland, and Stafford. So that has been, we received that NOGA back from OPM. So we are live, at least theoretically, with OPM. So that's very exciting. And that project is moving forward. And the only other item that I have is solid waste. We're making considerable progress with regards to some of the activities, including vendor outreach and discussions with the haulers, and the situation, and getting an idea of their perspective from how the state of Connecticut is, how things are in the state of Connecticut, and specifically in our region. And the next CSWA meeting is this coming Monday.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Pauline, Kim, do you have anything from Purchasing Council?
I do. I have a few updates. First, I just wanted to mention that CROG has awarded the job order contracting consultant contract to Facility Optimization Solutions. This is a rather big change, and we have had some towns reach out, kind of wondering what was going on. So after about 16 years or so, we are shifting gears, and Gordian will remain our consultant until the end of the year. So any projects that are in process, it's business as usual. Keep working with Gordian Group. Contractors will remain in place. They are not changing for any reason other than, come this fall, we will be going back out to bid for contractors, just like we do every other year. But January 1st will be our new consultant will be taking over. You will receive plenty of notification. We're going to have info sessions with them. So, we're going to work with them to make the transition as seamless as possible. So anybody that has questions in the interim, please feel free to reach out to me. But I can assure you, between now and the end of the year, just keep working with Gordian and the contractors as you have been. So that was job order contracting. I wanted to also let everyone know the RFQ that we put out for professional development and training services. We had received about 48 proposals, and we have whittled it down. We have a nice list on our website now that should be active by the end of the week. We collected one-pagers from the qualified vendors that we will have our towns have on there for our towns to use. And those one-pagers will have, pricing, modules that they offer, and contact information. So that'll be up and running by the end of the week. I will also share that via email for everyone. And last but not least, my annual salt bid NAG, that will be issued tomorrow. So if you have not gotten me quantities for your treated or untreated or both road salt, please reach out to me after this meeting so we can make sure we get you in there, as the bid will be issued tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Great. Any questions for Kim? Right. I apologize. There's a motor vehicle accident on the highway on 91, so I'm just informing the town council. So, all righty. So, business items. Matt and Kim is going to talk a little bit about regional CDL training, driver training, licensing. Kim, you're going to lead on this one?
I can certainly get us started. A couple of meetings ago, we had spoke about potentially bidding for regional CDL training. We asked our towns, to kind of gauge interest. We haven't heard back from anyone with the exception of Mansfield. So I think today we were trying to just kind of get a feel for whether or not there was more interest in pursuing this. Not sure. I've done a little bit of research just in terms of training schools in the area. I know there aren't many in our area from what I've seen, but it does look like there's, other facilities in the Bridgeport area that might offer these if we do move forward with trying to bid this out. But of course, we would want to get more interest from our towns. So if anybody wants to talk about that today, that'd be great.
And I can just add briefly to Kim's comments, Peter. Folks may recall Maria Capriola from Mansfield brought this to us a couple of months ago. Those of us who've been around for a little while, you may recall that we used to do a lot of this testing at our own facilities. It's harder to do that now. So I think Maria's question in part was, hey, could we look to recreate that local training, if you will, on a regional level? Maybe hosting it at a municipal facility, contracting out with someone who could actually conduct the test, handle the licensure, etc. And to Kim's point, we really haven't heard of much interest other than Mansfield. So we did want to revisit the topic today to see if there are other towns that, see this as a genuine issue for your public works department. And is this something you would like to explore? So that's our question to the group.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt, for posing that question. Any initial thoughts at this point, or do you need to go back to your public works and other department members of your team?
Quick question here. Would this be to certify someone with the Class B CDL and or Class A? The reason that I ask is typically when we are out hiring for an entry-level maintainer position, frequently we will get applications from people who do not yet have their Class B, and that is a prerequisite for them to start. So often there is kind of a scheduling and timeliness issue, and sometimes they, at least for the last couple of hires that we've had, will go out and find a private school that offers it and get it very quickly, in a matter of weeks. How flexible if we did this on a regional basis, would there be sort of a regular schedule, would it be once a year, twice a year, more frequently? And as a follow-up, if it's the Class A, I would also be interested in that for at least some members of my public works crew. But the timeliness can be a little bit more flexible on that front. They're already in, they have the Class B. Yes, we'd like, to provide them with the opportunity to upgrade to a Class A. But if it doesn't happen by the end of the month, it's okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, Peter, I can take a stab at that. Oh, I'm sorry. After you.
No, I was just going to say those are those are the things that need to be explored. And I guess that's part of if there's folks that are interested in exploring it, I think that's where we are, Dave. But those are all great points that to make, because I think we're all hiring folks in. At this point, we've relaxed a number of our requirements. I know. So Matt, you want to add to that?
Yes, I agree with you, Peter. I do think the initial focus would be Class B, and Maria from Mansfield was also thinking about those members of our own workforces who are looking to take a promotional opportunity. Many towns, for example, will hire maintainers, right, without requiring the CDL. People who may work in grounds, et cetera, and who are looking to take a promotion, perhaps become an equipment operator, perhaps, become a driver. And is there a way we can provide a more cost-effective option on a regional level than what exists today?
This is something that came up in our negotiations a year or so ago for our public works department, and we kind of put in not in the actual contract of like we're going to look into it more, but we brought up the idea of potentially kind of bringing in-house training and having someone on staff get certified and just because we've heard from our employees that it's a little cost prohibitive to get the A. Someone threw out like a $3,000 amount or whatever.
Mm.
So then we've also had to like, do we use our tuition reimbursement money for that, um, or we've added a stipend if they get their A, but it's not required for the job. They can get a small stipend until the life of the contract expires. So it's definitely something that we would be interested in learning more about.
Thank you, Tom.
Great. Anybody else have any either questions at this point or areas that we should or interest to continue to explore this? All right. So Matt, I'm going to leave it up to you and maybe Pauline to decide how we might proceed. Sounds like there's at least a couple communities. If you include Mansfield, Simsbury, maybe Marlboro has some, at least some questions to be explored. Maybe there's a way of gauging some other through DPW directors or the much of who's on the transportation committee, if that's the right group to raise it with, or
that could be.
Not.
I hadn't thought of that. Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember how those who makes up the transportation committee, if it's all town engineers or if it's public works / town engineers as well. So
it's a combo.
Yeah. So, and I also recall at some point that perhaps Connecticut DOT had developed something. I think that was in our conversations relative to workforce development, Matt, that I thought there was some cooperation between some of the collective bargaining unions and the DOT. That might be a place to explore and benchmark. So
good.
All right. So speaking of workforce development, as many of you know, the state has an advisory commission on intergovernmental relations, and Matt is heavily involved in that as a member of the commission. And there's been a variety of efforts on that commission's part to look at workforce development at the municipal level. So, Matt, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of hit the highlights of the report that I know number of us have been involved in to varying degrees in the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. So Kim Bona did include a link to the report itself, and there it is. And Kim, if you wouldn't mind just putting in a link in the meeting chat as well. So this is a draft report prepared by the Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations, or ACIR. If you're not familiar with ACIR, it's a 25-member commission. It's comprised of municipal folks, representatives from state agencies, appointees of CCM and cost and legislative leadership. It's a diverse group, and really the mission is to focus on how can we improve intergovernmental relations here in our state. I was recently made the chair back in the January timeframe, and Steve Stefanu, town manager in Manchester, serves as the vice chair. So a couple of years ago, ACIR formed two subcommittees, one with a focus on municipal workforce development, and then another on special education governance, and workforce development. So today we just want to talk about the first one, the draft report related to municipal workforce development. Would love to get your feedback on this as we look to finalize the report. And this subcommittee was co-chaired by Ron Thomas, Deputy Director, just retired, of CCM, and myself. And we had a number of volunteers, including Peter, who helped us prepare this. But the report acknowledges that workforce development is an issue for local government here in our state and nationally. And you all are seeing this, I'm sure, every single day. Where are we going to be able to recruit? Where's the next generation of local government employees going to come from? Because just like the state, just like the federal government, just like the private sector, local government is struggling to recruit and retain people for a variety of reasons. So the report was primarily focused on workforce development, and there are a couple key recommendations there I'll walk you through in a minute. We also looked a little bit at shared services. How can we continue to promote shared services in our state? We touched on some related topics, such as civility in the work environment and how that has impacted the public sector and local government in particular. And then we also talked about compensation and hiring practices in local government and how those might be negatively impacting our recruitment and retention efforts. So leading off with our key recommendations, we have a set of recommendations related to internships, trainee programs, even creating apprenticeships at the local level. And the challenge, of course, with all of these ideas is where could we obtain the financial resources to subsidize these initiatives? Because we know at the municipal level, your budgets are very stretched, right? Your budgets are very stretched. Do you have the funding to sponsor an intern? Maybe not. Do you have the funding to sponsor a trainee? Maybe not, or an apprentice, et cetera. All of those things come at a cost. And then a second resource challenge, especially for our smaller communities, is do you actually have people who are in a position to mentor these folks? Do your existing employees have the bandwidth and the know-how to mentor people? So we do acknowledge those challenges here. But on the internship side, some of the ideas we talked about is could we model a program that the state has created for state employees? It's called the Connecticut Certified Trainee Program, which provides pathways to state employment in a whole variety of state departments. And generally, it's a 2-year program. They're bringing someone in fresh out of school into this trainee program. They're a paid employee from day one. They may do a bit of a rotation. And then if they work out, if they're successful, generally, that internship program will lead to full-time employment within that state agency. So the Connecticut Certified Trainee Program at the state level, is that something we could look to replicate at the municipal level? The second initiative is somewhat related. This would be to create a municipal trainee program, really where we could focus on any number of key local government occupations, including public works, public safety, parks and rec, perhaps, and Windsor. Peter can speak on this in a minute. I think, Peter, you all had done a little work on this. And the focus is how can we provide on-the-job training for these folks, with a program that might last 6 to 9 months. These could be temporary positions, part-time positions, maybe even full-time if you were able to cobble together adequate funding for that. The next item we looked at would be to create a bona fide, a state-certified apprenticeship program. So an apprenticeship program, if you're not familiar with them, this would take a trainee initiative to the next level. And apprenticeship programs do need to meet certain requirements set by the state. We've had apprenticeship programs in the private sector for a good long time, right? You think of all of your major trades, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, et cetera. Historically, those folks would start out as apprentices, and then over time, as they gained experience, earned certifications, et cetera, they became journeymen and then eventually licensed trade professionals. So this would build on that model, so to speak. And a couple of key positions we talked about were those positions that require certifications, but not necessarily a 4-year degree. For example, could be a wastewater operator, which we know are really hard to find. Could be a fire marshal. Could be an assessor or a tax collector. Maybe even a sanitarian, although I know sanitarians, typically you're looking for a 4-year degree. So these programs, this would be more resource heavy, right? In order to really administer a bona fide apprenticeship program. And we thought conceivably these could be administered by one of our larger COGs or our education equivalent, the Regional Education Service Centers, or RESCs. So just moving on in the interest of time, another concept would be for a couple of towns to share in a mentorship program. A mentorship program where ideally and this would really be focused on youth and employment. We would be targeting high school students in particular, or recent high school grads with this program. And could the host municipalities develop a bit of a rotation, if you will, where you could bring the participants in to an entry-level position, and provide them with some mentorship and a rotation within the local government. So those are the main ideas we had related to workforce development. Peter, should I pause here for questions, comments, feedback, or keep moving through the rest of the report?
Let's take questions and comments now. Next section, I think, is shared services. So let's stop here.
Yeah.
And anything ring true with you? Anything that, from skimming the report and hearing Matt's comments, any questions, comments, anything catch your eye?
I just like to mention, we have in Weathersfield, out of necessity, really, we had put out for an assistant building official, I think 4 times unsuccessfully. As many of you know, those positions just aren't out there, and the state process to get certified is rather lengthy. Our previous assistant building official, we had hired without his certifications, but then he was successful at getting it while he was in the job, and then it became our building official. As our building official wanted to retire, we convinced our previous building official to kind of hang around in a different capacity. And we have, although it's not an official apprenticeship, we are actually calling the position building official apprentice. We did hire a young man that is in the process. He goes out in the field with both our current building official and our previous building official on a regular basis. They're also helping him study for the exam, going through the classes. It's at a lower pay scale. So we're able to make it work. And the idea is that, within 6 months or so, he will be ready to sit for the exam. And then if all goes well, we would elevate him up to another level, not quite assistant building official yet, but a lower level than that. And then within a couple of years, he would rise to the assistant position. But again, that's out of necessity. But we'd be glad to share what we've done to get to this point anyway. Great. So far, so good.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing, Fred. We had that same, out of necessity. We've done that with 2 assistant building officials, and they basically worked 2 days here, and then they were taking classes the other handful of days. And we did that with a sanitarian, which took much longer to go through the process with the state. Yeah. But we needed to grab her and keep her here. So folks have other experiences that they like to share, or other. Matt, when is this report looking to get finalized? And
right, so we will look to finalize it in the July timeframe, and then we would plan to submit it to the state, to the governor's office and legislative leadership. It does have some recommended next steps, which would be largely out of ACIR's control, but where could we obtain the funding to promote some of these things. I guess the question I have for the group. Oh, sorry, Peter.
No, I was going to ask, is there any regulatory or legislative changes that are being recommended here? I know we talked about that at length when I was on the task force for the building official. Is there anything in here other than money?
No, that's a good point. But the main thing there is we need to identify some of these. We need to do a better job of identifying some of those impediments, to licensure, and those are many, as you may know. It may be access to training. It may be the cost of training. It may be recognition of other state certifications and licensures. Our thinking is that the state could certainly do a better job in that regard in any number of fields, including building inspection. But the question I have for the group, Peter, is any of these programs that we touched on here, trainee, interns, full-blown apprentices, if your town had the financial resources to subsidize something like this, do you think you would have the bandwidth to support it and take on these folks? Sounds like Weathersfield would certainly be willing.
Yeah, and we also do internships every single year with our engineering department, which have led to people being hired later on after they graduate. It's usually college students coming back for the summer. We do summer-long internships. They're out in the field. They're working with our engineers. They're getting on the ground experience. Several of them come back year after year, and we've even hired them once they've graduated as engineers in training. So it's been successful certainly in that area too.
Yeah, Manchester, Glastonbury. What do you all think? Oh, sorry, Kasha.
Sorry, Matt. Sorry to cut you off. Yes, jumping in. Yeah, no. That's something that would definitely be of interest to us. We are trying to do an ABO apprentice right now. So that is something that we have in the works that we are not quite there yet, but very close to making that happen. So that we have a lot of hopes for, but we'd be open to it in other departments. I'm actually looking at it for our town attorney's office as well on the legal side. So exploring that with the UConn Law School at the same time, but that's something that in other departments also.
Thank you, Kasha.
And I'd say fire marshal too is an area we'd be very interested in because we know that our current fire marshal will be retiring soon. Yep. We've got 2 assistants, but they have no desire to take the position full time. They're both part time, so that's another position we see as being a real challenge filling. But we have the capacity now to have them work with the folks we have.
So just calling on more of our friends here, if you are in a position to talk, curious about Glastonbury, Newington, Tolland, Columbia.
In Coventry, we would be interested in that with the building official and potentially the fire marshal.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
We had a similar issue in Newington with building officials, so agree that would definitely be something we would be interested in partnering on.
So great. Thanks for sharing, folks. It's certainly with Fred and I, we're more than happy to share our experience and how we brought our quote unquote trainees in took probably the building official took a good 8 to 9 months to go through, and we could more than happy to share how we structured that, as well as we're doing that similarly right now with a asset kind of a engineering tech. So she's going to school. She's been an intern with us, and now she's going to school for the last 2 more semesters. And so we hired her on. She's working like 32 hours, then taking the rest of her coursework. So we're more than happy to share our, might be a crude model, but it's a model. So, and I'm listening here. Maybe Matt, there's a little bit of, I think there's something through a RPIP grant that could, think this would fit something along that line.
Yeah, potentially. And maybe Pauline can chime in a little bit. We recently heard from the state DAS regarding a brick grant application that we had submitted a couple of years ago that would help us stand up a program in the area of building inspection. You know, we thought brick had been eliminated at the federal level, but now there seems to be some life. So we are revisiting the idea. Pauline, are you able to comment?
Yeah, so I can comment on both on the RPIP on the brick. So the brick is a grant that that DAS has been coordinating, and a small part of that is on the job training program with the coordinator and potential. I think they called them interns, but it would be on the job training for building inspection. TBD in terms of if they actually get it, et cetera. I would say if it does get awarded, that is probably 18 months out in terms of that actually getting implemented based on how the speed of the other federal grants have been recently. On the RPIP side, as people were saying, I'm interested, I might be interested. I was thinking that this could be something that would work for an RPIP, as long as the only caveat I would say is that the person would then have to be shared with the participating towns.
Yep.
Right. So that's but they would be shared both in that training and also in the participating towns. And I think it is ideal for that, because then it's a 50-50 match. So you don't have to put as much money up for that training portion of it. But then if you share the person, and then could it be replicated with other towns as well, or expanded to include other towns, or done, multiple times? I think that has great potential, especially with building officials. They don't. Everybody's hurting for a building official. I mean, there are very few towns who aren't looking at who are set for now, but 5 years down the road, or in the future, are anticipating that they'll need help. And a lot of times still it's towns poaching from other towns when they need a building official, as opposed to being able to grow them.
Great. All righty, Matt, do you have anything else that we
I
still
can
have some
quickly
time
touch.
individually if we have comments?
Yes, certainly. I can quickly touch on the other sections
Great.
of the
Okay.
report, Peter. So on the shared services section, this group is pretty knowledgeable. We just highlighted some examples from within the region, or actually around the state, of shared services between towns and school districts, and between towns. And then we also talked about the RPIP program that Pauline mentioned. We want to make sure that state legislative leadership and the governor's office continue to support the RPIP program. And then in the area of civility, we talked about how the decline in civility and the advent of social media and a whole variety of things, how that is negatively impacting local government, and how even now frontline local government employees can be exposed to this, either attacks online, or people who are walking into the building and trying to disrupt things, et cetera. So we did talk about potential partnerships with the Rail Center for Public Service at the University of Hartford. There's also a national group called Braver Angels that focuses on how to promote civility. We have a separate initiative underway that Kim Bishop and some of our members are very involved in. The main thing we wanted to do here was just highlight this as an issue. We wanted to make sure that state officials were cognizant of the fact that this is impacting employment, recruitment, and retention at the local government level. And I'm sure that resonates with all of you. And then in the area of compensation and hiring practices, we talked about how local governments really, we need to make sure that our hiring practices are less bureaucratic, that they take less time, that we really focus on what's called skilled-based hiring. What do you actually need to do the job as opposed to what might be desirable. For example, do you really need that master's degree? Do you really need that bachelor's degree? And, we understand that those requirements are often important to collective bargaining units because they help drive compensation, et cetera. We get that. But, in order to compete for talent today, local governments really need to make sure that their hiring practices are more contemporary, And we talked about the importance of compensation. You all know how that factors into recruitment and retention as well. So that's a summary of the draft report. We're looking for the full commission to endorse it as part of a package that we will submit to folks at the state, the governor's office, and legislative leadership. Appreciate the opportunity to review it today and solicit your input.
Great. Thanks, Matt. If anybody has additional ideas, thoughts, send them along to Matt as far as the report goes. And looks like there might be some opportunities to pursue this, on our own, and either, individually as member towns or collectively as CROG. Just happened to have a meeting with the state fire marshal this afternoon, and I am going to pick her brain on the fire marshal side. And those folks that mentioned they need fire marshal help in the future, I'll make sure Lori knows that you folks are looking. So I've got inside track. Lori worked with us here for about 12 or 14 years. So she actually answers my texts. So
hey, that's a great thing.
It is. It is. So municipal service sharing. What if folks have anything to share? We talked a little bit about budget. Don't want to dwell on those challenges too long, but we got that there. I have a very selfish request. If anyone knows of folks that have inland wetland agents that are looking for a little bit of extra, if you have part-time folks, or if you want to partner in some form or fashion, let me know. We're in need of maybe 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12 hours at most, but probably 1 day a week, the equivalent of 1 day a week, to do some inland wetlands work for us, basically field stuff. So if anybody pops up in your mind or anybody wants to explore possible partnership, just shoot me a note, give me a holler. Anybody else have anything else on municipal service sharing? Okay. Future agenda items. I mentioned earlier the new Act PA 26-144 regarding to fire protection plans and other items. That dovetails into the state fire services study that is underway at the state level. The policy board had a presentation, Matt, 2 meetings ago?
Yes, in April. Yep.
In April, and that was a high-level overview of the phase 1 of which would be data collection. So that could be a future agenda item. And then along the same front, Avon and Farmington they've come to an agreement on sharing dispatch services. And so we thought maybe we could look at some point in the fall to have them come in and talk a little bit about how that process went and how they structured it, and learn a little bit of tips and tricks from them on that front. So anybody have any suggestions for other future agenda items? Okay. As always, pass those along. If you do, it takes a little bit of while to get these things in a pipeline. So Tom and Jonathan, when you wake up in the middle of the night, write down your idea, send them along. So, all righty.
Will do.
I think
How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing fine. How you doing up there in Windsor Locks?
Oh, not too bad. Getting ready for, been working on our budget. So I got to do some cuts. I got to bring to the Board of Finance tonight. So that's what I've been.
Fun.
Yeah.
Well, reach out to us if you need any help on any front.
Well, I might be, I caught the tail end. I just had to step out a second and came back in about shared services. I've been looking for human resources personnel. So I got it in our budget, but if it doesn't go, I'll be looking at something like that.
All righty. Pauline, do we still have the contract for the HR?
We do. We have a master
consulting services?
contract. We do. We have a master contract with HRCG for human resources services. So they do a wide variety of services, everything from payroll and benefits to just an HR resource. Serving as your, I don't know, stand-in human resources director or what have you to just especially for smaller organizations. So they are that we do have a master contract with them, which we just extended to the end of next year.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a possibility. It could either be for a short term or it could be longer term. Option as well.
So John, we used that firm a couple of years ago through the CROG contract to update some of our policies. They updated like 4 or 5 of our personnel policies. So, that could be a good resource. And so what's the best person, Pauline, if John wants or anybody wants to reach out and get more information?
You can reach out to me, or actually, right now it's Laura Frankowski in our office,
Okay.
who, the program manager.
Yeah, we can track down.
Yeah. You can just reach out to me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'll reach out to you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah.
Pauline and Peter. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. All right. Kim, next meeting, 8th of September, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All righty, folks. We will see you, some of you as soon as Thursday. Others will see in the coming weeks. Have a awesome next couple days and stay cool.
Wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, folks.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Safe travels,
Appreciate it.
Matt.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.